Hello folks, boatbrew.com here, Arne Puls at the mic together with Valentin Salavyov.
Hello?
Hello. So today we're gonna tell you all that you need to know to begin playing this new interesting game called Faeria. It's basically very similar to Hearthstone and Magic and also to Settlers of Catan in terms of how the board looks like. Also, it will remind you a little bit about Duelist, because the game is quite balanced, I think, to this development stage. It's very new. It's still in, let's say, beta. It's not officially released yet. It's only early access. And yeah, as you can see, we started a match. This is yeah, we're practicing. It's the solo. It's not ranked. It's not. It's playing against computer because then we don't have the time limit so that we can explain everything. So you start like this. This is your hand. Because you started second, you get this. You get this coin, which basically allows you to get 2 mana back and also create an extra plane, an extra turf.
One important thing about this game is that unlike Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone and other card games, the resources, Faeria, which is here, is not reset each turn. You gain each turn 3 Faeria and they don't go away at the end of turn. So you can stockpile Faeria for multiple turns to cast a bigger creature later in the game. That's one of the main differences and for this game. Then second thing is, by default you get only 3 Faeria a turn, but there are ways to gain more. First and most common used way are Faeria wells. As long as you have creature close to this well, you will get extra Faeria per turn. So if you have creatures at all of these 4 wells, it means you will gain 7 Faeria a turn, 3 Faeria for normal plus 1 for each of the wells. And another way to get Faeria is from here. This is the most different thing from Magic the Gathering and other games, a resource wheel. Basically, once per turn, you can choose one of these to play. This means, so you can either create a lake, forest, mountain, desert, or you can create 2 neutral lands. Basically, this is like playing a land drop. So we're going to just play a forest. These 4 cards have costs. This is Faeria cost in the upper left corner. It means how much Faeria the card costs to play. You can then there is the forest cost. This means that you have to have 3 forests in the play before you can actually cast this card. For example, we have Tiki Piper, which requires 1 forest and 3 Faeria. We can just play it right now. The gift ability basically means when it comes into play, it can do something. This had the gift ability of giving +4 toughness, so it can, unlike Hearthstone, this can actually give itself bonus. So now we have 1/5. We can play Explore, but we're just gonna pass a turn.
Another thing that I understood was that creatures that require certain types of lands, you can only place them on those types of lands.
Yes, that is so. But there is one interesting thing for Faeria, that, for example, I create neutral land. Neutral lands are faster to create because you can, instead of using 1, you can create 2 of them
per turn.
As well. And another thing that's not actually told anywhere is that you can place a land over a neutral land, like this. That's not actually covered in tutorial, but in normal tutorial, but yeah, still you can do it. So then, well, actually there is also yeah. Then for resource wheel, these are the types of lands you can create. There are four colors in the game: lake, water, forest, and mountain and desert. This for neutral land, and this allows you to gain one Faeria. So instead of actually creating a land, if you need to cast something fast, you can use this and gain one more Faeria to cast something faster. And this means you can draw extra card. So instead of getting a land or Faeria, you can gain more draw extra card. So this means that you can either gain fourth Faeria in a turn or draw second card in a turn. This turn we're gonna create new forest. Now we move close to Faeria well. Creatures cannot harvest again Faeria at the turn they are summoned, but any other turn they can do it immediately. So I moved my creature close to Faeria well, and it immediately gained me one more Faeria. So now we have 3 forests in play, and we have more than 5 mana. We can play Grove Guardian, which has Taunt. Taunt is a special ability that says that any creature adjacent to it, opposing creature, has to attack it and can't do anything else. It can abstain from attacking, but well, usually sometimes it's correct choice. But so now we also have a buff card, which can give my creature +2/+2 to ensure that it actually survives. That's basically all the rules the game has. As you can see from here, damage doesn't recover, so if you deal damage, it stays on the creature. The rest of the rules, well, there aren't any more. So
Yeah, these are basically the basics. Let's say that this way. Well, now let's bring a few more details. First of all, because we played lands in such a curly way, that means we're setting up for a long game, mid-rangey, grindy game, instead of having a fast forward, like red deck wins kinda smarky strategy. So that's another nuance.
yeah, so usually the land placement is what makes this game so strategically interesting, and basically it's if you place your lands well, it's easy to win. If not, you're not going to win. Right now my land placement was pretty abysmal because I could have used explore on the first turn, which would have let my harvester harvest one turn earlier, which would give me more mana, and this turn I wouldn't have to gain mana from resource wheel, so to cast Tiki Caretaker. Actually, about buffs in this game are really good. So I can just it's basically like a creature has haste, so I can just go ahead and kill his creature right now. And then so land placements have different varieties, and there are strategies depend wholly what kind of deck you play. Slower decks usually want to creep along the lower side. Faster decks will go straight up with 2 neutral lands. This kind of deck, I wanted to maintain balance, which means I went to first up and then to the side. This isn't concentrated on resources, and it gives some defense, because when you go immediately to the side, it means you won't have defense against rush decks, which is kind of bad since they will have easier time killing you.
Right, let's talk a little bit about structures and other sort of enchantments, cards and so on.
So basically the game has currently three types of cards. First are creatures. you can summon them anywhere, on as long as it meets requirements. If it's neutral creature, you can summon it on your own tile. If it's a colored creature like this, is you can summon it only on the tile of its color, so forest. And then there are events which you can play as long as you meet the requirements. So this requires me to have 4 forests, we have, and pay for 0 fairy, which is easy to do, and it gives us 1 card and 3 life. We miss the land, we don't get any life, but it's still fine since we got Freedom Fighter. This is a neutral creature, and haste means it can move immediately.
So it's like charge.
Well, this game has charge, so it's like haste in Magic, but charge in Hearthstone.
Yeah, and then charge here means that it can actually move more than normally, so more than one land.
Yeah, but that's written on the card and not the basics. But the interesting point again about haste is the card costs 5 mana. I can cast it here, and it immediately harvests since it has haste. If it wouldn't have haste, it couldn't have harvested immediately. And then since it's neutral, it can be summoned on any tile. I could have summoned it on forest and so on. Now I can also move it and kill opposing creature here. So haste creatures are really useful. That's why actually in the last patch they nerfed one of the best haste creatures. And then we got kind of sidetracked. Last card type is structure. It cannot move and it cannot harvest, but they usually have some quite good abilities to compensate for that. Yeah, they're not that commonly used as creatures and events.
Let me just quickly explain here to you guys. Basically, creatures and minions, okay, universal for Hearthstone. Then events are like spells in Hearthstone and like sorceries in Magic. And then structures are sort of like totems in Hearthstone and like enchantments in Magic.
Yeah, about land placement. Usually you can only place lands near your other lands. So you can see I have forests, so I can place close to my forests, close to my character, which is referred to as God. But here is an exception. If I have creature on opposing tile and there are some empty tiles near it, I can actually summon a land close to my creature, like this. And then I can, for example, place a haste creature, buff him a bit, and hit for a bit more than would actually be expected. Yeah, so land placement is a core part of the gameplay here, and this tutorial was kinda crappy with explaining it, but it's still for multicolor. For example, both of our decks are monocolored. We both play only forests, but you can actually play a deck with forests and mountains, which would give you more options in deck building. But on the other hand, it would really restrict your gameplay, since it's much harder to establish multiple colors early in the game. That's what actually is happening right now in the more competitive scene. You can't really see more than 2 colored decks because it's too hard to build a proper deck with that, with more than 2 colors. You won't be able to cast your creatures since your hand might have one creature needs 2 forests, one creature needs 2 lakes, and third creature needs 2 deserts. And before you can actually play all of your cards, your opponent will already kill you or gain so much advantage that you won't be able to do anything to him.
Yeah, let's just also say that it's technically possible like to go 3 colors, especially if you manage it so that most of the cards in your deck cost like only having one forest or one mountain in play, but then you're sacrificing a lot of power because a lot of actually good creatures and spells would require you to have more than one copy of one type of a land, and sometimes there are some good creatures that would require you to have 3 forests and 3 mountains in play.
Okay, so that was a sample game right there. Not much.
Let's explain like what you can do here in the menu and what it does.
Well, technically, right now we have either campaign mode. Here you can earn some basic cards or practice against opponents. These missions are somewhat interesting since there are thematics. For example, the blue final mission is requires you to rush your opponent, because if you don't do, it pulls off some crazy combo after which you will be hard pressed to win anything. So it's possible, so it's interesting in that regard as well. Then you can practice your newly made decks against AI. It's not the best opponent to practice them against, but still good enough for some test decks. Then you can play battle mode, so you have options of playing ranked or unranked battle. For ranks matter as similar to Hearthstone. You can earn more ranks and become a legend, but right now there aren't any prizes for that. But the game is still in early access and it might change later on. Then we have Pandora mode, which is a limited mode, which is not yet implemented since the game is early access, and we might be expecting it.
So this is limited, or you can say this is arena.
Yes, arena limited. Yes, it's basically getting packs, building deck out of what you get. We don't still know exact specifics at this time, since the game will be it's going to be out somewhere in June possibly. Then there is a level up system like in Hearthstone, which is kinda rewarding, because here, for example, at level 3 you get crafting, at level 5 you get 250 gold. This basically means you can buy 2.5 boosters. And also, each time you level up, you gain 1 free booster. So, and first level are really easy to level up. So, at the beginning, you will be getting boosters quite quickly, which is good because it will let you customize your decks. And with crafting system, you can disenchant the extra cards and get. You might actually quickly build the deck you want to play, but don't count on it, since some of the better cards are legendaries, which are really hard to craft, because at the current moment of the time legendaries cost 500 gold and 500 memoria, which is the resource here.
So your crystals, yeah.
It's not impossible.
Your dust.
Yes, it's not impossible to craft these creatures, but it's gonna take a lot of boosters or disenchanting some of your cards, which you probably wouldn't want to disenchant, but that's basically the same as in Hearthstone. It's hard but rewarding to get these creatures. And they provide some, creatures, events, cards. They provide some really good effects as well. Basically, that's all this game has currently to offer, but it has a small but dedicated community, which is only going to grow from now on.
Okay guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave any questions about this game in the comments below. We would be playing it a lot, both of me and Valentin, and we might be streaming it from time to time on Twitch, so watch out for that. Until later, goodbye folks, until the next sale.